Hello, everyone. It's Friday night and it is Weekender time once more. And on this week's show, I've got Ben, John, and Shay to take me through a week's worth of gaming news from across the tabletop industry. On top of that, one lucky subscriber will be in with a chance to win a copy of the middle strategy battle game, The Battle for Osgiliath, from store.ontabletop.com. If you want to be in with a chance to win this big box set of fun, you need to be a subscriber to the channel. Pop a comment below, and if you can do all the socially typed things that they love, do that as well. Otherwise, sit back and relax, because we're only 28 sleeps away from Christmas, and your weekend starts here. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Weekender. I've got a bevy of beautiful babes with me this week to take you through gaming. Ben, Shay, and John, look at yous. You luscious gets you.
We are quite luscious, yes.
We are beautiful, yes.
Yeah.
We have a jam-packed show, as always. But before we dive into that, a little bit of, not bookkeeping, but a reminder. Because we've had themed weeks coming thick and fast, coming at you like Cleopatra, as they say in France, I believe. So no sooner had we finished one when another one hoved into view over the horizon. So our most recent has been Undaunted, the most recent game of which came out yesterday. If you're watching this on Friday night, it's just been released. So if you're unaware of Undaunted, you've been living in a box somewhere, I imagine. However, it's a range of World War II deck building and tactical board games, which makes it sound very highfalutin. But what it is a range of very, very enjoyable World War II games, from North Africa to Normandy to Stalingrad. Each one has got something new and exciting added to it. We also have a host of interviews with both of the games designers of the core system, Robbie and Roland, the writer and illustrator for Stalingrad. The only people we're missing really are David Turksey and I'm trying to remember who did Reinforcements AI system with David. It'll come to me. If not, it's on the front of the box. However, if you want to know anything about Undaunted, we have a ton of bits and pieces you can go back and have a look at.
Yeah, we've been covering it for a while now.
Yep. Yeah. I think there's pretty much every version of the game that you can play. We have a Let's Play up for, so whether it's solo, 4-player or 2-player standard, or one of the downloadable scenarios, all of that and so much more. And somebody asked if Shay and myself could play through the full Stalingrad campaign. And I believe
Shay's grin says that's possibly coming then.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, so I think in January we're going to start rolling through the campaign right back from the very first scenario, because the Let's Play for it, we jumped in sort of midway through a campaign to show you how the city is destructed. But what we will do is roll it right back to the start from scenario 011, which makes me sound like Bender. 1101000110. But we'll go back to the very first scenario and we'll play it out in detail, and you can see Shay smashing my toys. I imagine that's generally what it does.
I do like smashing your toys.
He does, you know.
It's the funnest part of my week.
I should give you the camera control. Let you worry about that. I find that is distracting enough to give you a tactical advantage, to make sure that I'm actually focusing on the board and not on, the back of my head or a dice tray somewhere. But yeah. Also, we haven't drawn the winners for the Undaunted week yet. I generally do that a week or so after the finish of it. So the last one went out last Sunday. So to give people a few more days, a bit more time, I'll probably draw that next week, and that is on Holy Bundle.
Oh God, it's a good bundle. Yeah.
Of one of everything, plus a signed art book by Roland as well. So yeah, if you fancy getting involved in some World War II fun and games, it's definitely worth a punt. and with the Battle of Britain coming.
Oh my God, that looks good. I saw the new artwork for the tokens and stuff. Oh,
I haven't seen the map yet, because I was like sort of midway through the interview when I was talking to Trevor, and I was just like, it's just using the same tiles. I go, no, hex tiles. Going, hex tiles for your arcs of fire and movement.
So many options for movement.
It's so much room for activity. So I like how the vehicles work in North Africa. The fact that you can jump about seats and do different things than you would normally do. But yeah, the Battle of Britain sounds very interesting. So if you have an urge for World War II, it's definitely a good jumping off point for anybody who doesn't do historical or doesn't do board games, because it's very easy to get people who don't do either of them interested, because it's a really, really simple system and very engaging.
I like to think of it as a miniatures game without the miniatures. So, and that kind of does it for me. So
if you want to see what it looks like as a miniatures game with miniatures, search Board Game Geek,
yes.
Ultimate Undaunted Normandy. Somebody has replaced all the cardboard tokens with miniatures, and replaced all the tiles with tiles of the same size, but made with like 1/2-inch XPS foam, and they're all sculpted. So all the rivers are resin-filled rivers, all the trees and houses, everything. It's an amazing little thing. I should have I mentioned it to Benji, and I forgot to send him the link to it. I must do that later on, so Osprey can have a look at it, because it is the dog's doodads. And I mean, you're looking at it, you're going, that's great. Could I be bothered doing that myself? No, I can't. Oh,
well done to you. Well done.
Everything's magnetized as well. So he's got big steel drawers. So he just puts all his bits and pieces in, magnetized. But yeah, Board Game Geek, Ultimate Undaunted Normandy board game. Just bask in its brilliance. But anyway, so that's what I've been up to over the past couple of weeks. What have you guys at home been doing? No? All right, well, be like that then. We should kick into the show properly. And we're going to be kicking things off, as always, with our Indie of the Week. Ooh. And this week, our Indie of the Week has been chosen by Ben.
Yes, yeah.
Where are we going, Ben?
So we're going to Madrid, going to Spain. So this was one that I found because I was rooting around on Kickstarter and found a couple of different projects and stuff. And one of them popped up and caught my eye, because I thought, well, this looks very nice. Got a little bit of that kind of old school, old hammery style aesthetic to it. And so I decided to go and have a look at Red Bard Games, who are like, I like to think of them as the sort of height of indie, because there's like very little. Well, not very little, but there's like new. It is very exciting and very new and very small and very wee. But they do a really nice range of different things. So they've done, I think, 3 Kickstarters up until this point.
Yeah, Ogres is their third, I think.
Ogres is their third one, yeah. And they do a mix of different things. So they do elements that are digital in nature. So you can pick up STL files if you want and print things off. Or you can go down the route of picking them up as proper, full-on, legitimate miniatures as well.
Real things that don't require any thought.
Real things that don't require.
I pay you, you deliver to me a miniature.
Yes, real things that don't require electricity. Yeah, that's the. And so they've, and of course, Jerry's gone straight to the banners.
Yeah. Don't mind me. You tell us what's going on while I have a look.
Yeah. So yeah, as I say, their kind of feel is very much kind of old school D&D, fantasy, Warhammer, a little bit of sci-fi I think they're planning to do in the future as well. But it's a cavalcade of sort of monsters and terrain and units and characters and troops that you could use to represent a whole bunch of different things on the tabletop. For example, as you can see here, they've done a really nice set of stuff that is really good for kind of D&D adventurers. Because one of the things that's always nice is that if you've got a bunch of dungeon tiles, or maybe you've got some of the like battle mats or something, always nice to just have those mats. But sometimes you want to take it to that next level and do sort of like a 2.5D thing going on with that. Throw some bits and pieces in there to kind of enhance the games that you're playing. And what would be better than a bunch of stone adventurers that have been frozen in time, as it were. So,
especially if you've got some Medusa-esque or basilisk,
a basilisk,
either or kicking around, and instead of having your columns for blocking line of sight, go, well, I should have 4 columns, but why not replace it with 4 idiots?
Exactly.
Who thought that they could go in and rob it?
I like that 3 of the adventurers are covering their eyes, and the halfling's like, "Hey guys, I found
My eyes."
What are you screaming at?
Like a Noid shot.
It's a really nice little selection of stuff. Their like dungeon range in general, I think, is fantastic because they have a really like quirky selection of multi-eyed and one-eyed beasts that I think would be really nice for kind of, you know, ruining people's minds down in the dungeons and stuff.
Seeing whether or not the STLs and the core resin overlap. There's a bit of overlap in
there is a little bit of overlap between them, so especially with some of the newer stuff.
Look through the main resin page.
But as you can see, there's like a really nice section of just sort of dungeon-based accoutrement as you got there. So like, I love the Cave of Eyes thing. I think that's great. The Wild Cockatrice is a wonderful little kit as well. I mean, one of the things that I think, like, a lot of people will see sort of standard dungeons most of the time, and it'll be like, oh yes, just stone walls, little wooden doors, and that kind of thing. I like the idea of taking it that next level and going to kind of like the what do they call it? The Underdark?
Underdark.
The Underdark, yeah. And throwing all of these kind of weird things in where suddenly your torchlight illuminates something sticky on the wall. Oh, great. It's a big sucker and an eye. Wonderful. Yes.
So you should never run your hand down a wall, even if it's low light.
Exactly.
In a cave, because you never know what you're going to find.
You shouldn't do what my dwarf used to do, which was he would tell which direction to go by licking the stone. So
that's true. Okay. Checking for what side the moss was growing on.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, it's cold on this side. We're on the north.
He sounds like a wise man.
Yeah. He was always wrong, but there we go.
Never let that worry you. Mirror chamber as well.
But yeah, I think a lot of their stuff like this, I think, is really nice for kind of building on the sort of grandeur of miniatures-based role-playing and that kind of thing. Because it's always nice to do just playing around with counters and stuff on maps and that kind of stuff. But if you're going to take it to that next level and things, I think stuff like this is great. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to use this kind of stuff for role-playing games either, though, because there are plenty of skirmish games out there. I mean, I'm just going to use Frostgrave. It would be perfect for this kind of stuff because there are loads of wandering monsters and strange treasures and such that you might want to open up and have a look at and dive into and stuff. So, I mean, look at is it the Rattle Naga? I think is just a really quirky.
I've been staring at it for ages.
Yeah. How cool is that?
It's certainly something, isn't it?
It's very off-putting. Yeah. Very off-putting.
And that's what I really like about not that it's off-putting. I really like the look at the miniatures because it harks back, in my mind, to a lot of those early illustrations that we saw for D&D in those first monster manuals, where a lot of it was kind of just, done by Gygax and a lot. Yeah.
Cross-hatched. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I could see something like peering up out of the mists at me.
Yeah.
I really like that. But, that's because I used to have a lot of friends who would run wood elves, and the best thing you could do is put like a skaven on a cockatrice and just run forward and stare at tree men, and then laugh your backside off as they all froze with an initiative of 2.
Just squawking like a chicken as you go.
Oh, cockatrices are amazing, and there was only ever one model from Marauder, I think, for a cockatrice. It was very limited what your skaven were rocking about the place on. So more cockatry, always good.
And you have bits like this as well. So you've got like an orc warlord on the back of a wyvern and stuff. The wyvern very much reminds me of like How to Train Your Dragon. There's a dragon in that looks a lot like that.
Yep.
But this would be perfect if you're going to be diving into a little bit of sort of old hammery style wargaming on the tabletop.
Yeah. And
especially, I think the aesthetic of this would be really good alongside Seb Games' Battle Havoc.
Yes.
I think they would mesh really nicely. We looked at them a couple of weeks ago. That was really cool. So,
also, it's a wyvern that fits on a 50mm base, which I'm forever appreciative of.
Yeah.
So many of the models these days, they're ridiculously big and they don't fit any games I play. Mm-hmm. I need things to fit on 50s, please, people.
Yeah.
For, Warhammer up to 4th edition and, well, even 5th or 6th edition, they were still on 50s. Kings of War as well.
Yeah.
Nowadays, everybody wants to put things on 100 by 350mm, and you're going, it's bigger than my board, for God's sakes. Please make smaller monsters.
I had to have a separate box just to transport that, yeah. So
let's get rid of those. Have a look at what else is in here. We have, Orc Boar Riders are quite cute.
Yeah, it's probably worth having a look at some of the units and stuff they've done. I mean, there's a big focus from what obviously you can see here, on kind of like orcs and goblins and that kind of thing. So if you were trying to make armies that kind of matched up to sort of old green skins and stuff, this would be the way to go and have a look at and things. So
it's excellent for any of the Oldhammer community.
Oh, yes.
Can we have a look at the goblin ass cannon?
Don't worry, it's already open, mate.
I can see the tab.
Yeah. We're getting there.
I want to see that. I want that in my life.
And as
Careful.
well you should. It's not the only one. Those are really nice boar riders.
They are really good. I love that they have the same. I mean, they're more detailed than the classic plastic boar riders that everyone knows from Games Workshop. Yeah. But they still have that same look to them, which I think is really nice. Like kind of just sort of cantering forward. I think it's really cool.
I like the mix of helmets on them as well. One or two actually attempting to cover their big maws, I suppose, with something like a pig-faced bassinet. And
you've got the sculpted shields as well, which is nice to see. So
they are corking. Go on then.
Let's have a look at the ask. Oh my god.
It's like a barking dog. I like how one of the goblins is showing
fire.
He's gone.
See that?
He's gone full Agincourt.
This is something Morin would have.
Yes,
a Morin would have a lot of.
He'd have like like the entire back rank of his army would be ass cannons. Yes. Yep.
It just saves you having to paint too many goblins. That's why. that is a hell of a howitzer.
That is a canvas behind. Yeah.
Beautiful.
So, it reminds me, what was the creature that we saw that had something like this from another producer?
There's a demonic version of this.
Yes.
And it's the same guy who does the giant monstrous snail.
Mm-hmm. That's the one. Yeah. It's an old Indie of the Week, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, just really fun, inventive stuff that kind of doesn't take itself too seriously, which is always good to see, and kind of falls in line with, that feel of Oldhammer, where it was, dark and gritty, but it was also funny and full of black humor and dark humor and stuff as well. So yeah.
I mean,
that poor halfling.
Harden him is what I say there. Going into somebody's house, murdering his mates, stealing all his stuff. They deserve to end up in the soup.
That's what he gets.
But there used to be the Goblobber, the dwarven artillery piece. Yeah. And I remember years ago somebody did a diorama for Golden Demon called the Goblobber's Revenge, and they had a dwarf tied to a ballista, and the goblins were all dancing around it and roasting his mates and making soup and stuff. And this would just be ideal for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think he was a winner back in like 89.
He's like the Michel Roux Jr. of of the goblins. He's like the Michelin star goblin chef or something.
It's very good. I like how his hair squig is hiding his blushes.
Exactly.
Because nobody wants to see a crazy frog like a tiny little flippy flappy thing down there. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's worth having a look at some bigger stuff and some of the dungeon things. So you've got the ogre there, the two-headed troll's pretty cool. I like the undead eye. It's quite nice. And the eye minions are a really nice little sort of take on things as well. Because a lot of people will run beholders and stuff, and there'll always be kind of creatures that will be there in the background that'll serve them for whatever reason. Maybe it's the Duragar or something. But I like the idea of having little eye demons that help the beholders or something.
He's awesome.
He is very cool.
He reminds me of a mixture of Scrag the Slaughterer, and then the cover of Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay had the ogre berserkers type gladiator with the white and black mohawk.
That's the Slayer is leaping forward.
That's the one. Yep.
Yeah. I've got that book on my shelf behind me.
He's corking so high. It's a great book full of whimsy and fun and eventually insanity and death.
Me and my brother bought a copy of that book. And that's no meat. They're huge, and it was the big floppy paperback at the time as well. So it's just like it's huge. It's like having like the what was it? The
yellow pages.
The yellow pages for Warhammer fans.
I have the hardback on my
Oh,
shelf,
nice.
but I had the paperback at one point, and the reason I had the paperback was I was in Belfast. I was meant to be running a game, and I'd left my copy of the hardback at home. I was like, I'm not going like an
To
hour or
buy
so
them.
round trip. So I ran into my mate's comic store and went, role-playing emergency. Have you got a copy of Warhammer Fantasy Role-Playing? And we went, yes. So I bought the paperback and then left. When I was in a couple of days later, he was going, the other people in the store were so, it was so peculiar. It was like me literally running in, role-playing emergency. Where's this book? Great. Here's the money, Johnny. Throw, buy. And away. Going, never thought you'd see a role-playing emergency in a store.
Like
He is
how
particularly creepy.
cool is that? I love that the spirit is holding up all the bits of
Yeah.
him. So like the essence of the creature is kind of holding all the different orbs in the corners
I
of the
imagine
skull.
they're
and stuff,
all
yeah.
some sort of ruby.
Yeah.
And therefore, when you kill it, it's a big bag of loot. You just fill a sack with rubies. It's great.
But then when you take all the rubies and you take them to different people and you sell them, suddenly during the night, many weeks from when you destroyed the beast, they all suddenly come to life and a beholder comes out of every single one of them. Dun, dun, dun.
Ben, are you about to ask us to roll for initiative? Because that's what it sounded like.
Yes. Oh, look, it's a trunk troll.
troll.
Yeah.
No.
I think you'll find that that's doubling down because
It
there's
is,
not
yeah.
Boris on one
It
side.
is.
The gruesome
I-
twosome.
I love that someone from the continent was like, they're both assholes.
What is the worst possible thing we could do?
I think that's
I
amazing.
know.
So cool.
Yeah, there's some stonking stuff in there. And they're currently running a Kickstarter for ogres.
They are, yeah. So their recent batch of stuff is the Ogre Mercenaries. So again, old hammer, old school looking stuff that would be really great for use on the tabletop. I love that they've done the little pledge thing in the style of the old magazines of the old white.
Yeah, the old White Dwarf heavy metal bit.
Yeah, it's very cool. But yeah, you're able to get your hands on a whole bunch of different stuff that would be really good. As I say, for a whole range of those kind of old school, old hammer style games on the tabletop, and have a bit of fun with them as well. They don't necessarily need to be used for war games or role playing. They could be for anything really. I'm sure you could find something to do with them. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. If you're going to get involved, ogre shame.
Yeah.
If you're going to get involved with playing Old Hammer, the community is always looking for new sources of stuff that doesn't look out of place.
Yeah.
But as it gets harder and harder to lay your hands on the original stuff without being scalped.
These would be very fitting for a
these
lot
are
of the
spot on
Citadel
for it.
stuff. Yeah. So
So
nice.
these ones are actually going to be 3D printed.
mhm.
The ones on the main website are mostly cast.
Yeah.
So
I think in the end they'll probably end up making it so that you're able to get a choice of the two. I know. I think that a lot of this, because all the things that they do physically are 3D printed resins anyway. So I imagine they've just got the setup to enable them to make physical versions of things.
to make masters off the. I suppose once you've got the masters made and prepped and you've got a mold done, it's faster to cast in resin in a pressure pot than it is to 3D print. So batch.
Some really good stuff, I think. So.
Yeah.
Really are. Yeah, there you go. There, 3D printable things. Miniatures are supplied with square bases,
Oh,
like nature intended.
he's still my beating heart. As Jerry pledges.
Ignore those. Those are from previous things. I think that'll cover everything. No, I'm just going to close this. You don't need to see this bit. Right. That's going to keep me busy in the new year. Right. That is Red Bard Games from, I want to say Barcelona, but only because I watched a lot of Fawlty Towers from Madrid in Spain. Excellent bunch of bits and pieces there for role-playing and old hammering your way across the board as well. Classic stuff. I likes it. Okay, we shall be back in just 2 ticks with the news.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
Okay, we are back with the news, and Ben has been ferreting through the site to take out all the things that he thinks is worthwhile. What have you found this week, Ben? What wheat have you separated from the chaff?
It is all Middle Earth. No, it's not. So the first news story I basically picked out because we've got lovely John and we've got lovely Shay here. So this is the announcement that pre-orders are live and the actual release of World War III Red Dawn is on the horizon. Oh my God, it's coming so soon. So yes. Yeah, we got a look at some more of the stuff that they're going to be putting together for their initial launch of Red Dawn, which is obviously the invasion of America. And so we get the new book, which is going to obviously cover that invasion in North America, but it will also have additional background information for the Soviet Airborne forces. If you just want to play as the Soviet Airborne away from America, if you prefer, which is also something people mentioned in the comments. There's also the VDV, the Cubans, the US Continentals, and militia forces in there as well. So they've got everything packed into that book that allows you to play out your Red Dawn dreams.
Still no sign of Patrick Swayze, though, because I was looking to see if we could see it.
There is a militia kit at the bottom, I think.
Yeah, there is.
But I'm not sure whether or not Patrick Swayze is specifically in that. But it's the Wolverine armed militia at the bottom.
There's an airborne assault.
There is, yes.
Oh, you're so far away.
So yes, there is an airborne assault book as well, which is coming out, which is quite nice. So there's a whole bunch of different mission packs and all sorts of things as well. But of course, you can't launch an invasion of America without some soldiers to do it. And so you're also going to be able to pick up the BMD, don't say that wrong, BMD Air Assault Battalion that is going to be swooping onto tabletops with all those lovely helicopters. Oh, look at them. Precious.
I just had to move us so we can all see
Wonald drive.
Yes. Have that as well.
So that comes in the set alongside, I think it's free command, like HQ command team as well. I think it's quite nice. But there's a good mix of tanks, as you can see in there. I don't exactly know what they are. You guys can enlighten me as to what's in that set. There's some cool stuff. You've also got infantry and all sorts of different pieces in there too. For a proper mechanized assault, as it were. So
it's good to see the BMDs coming to the game, because they're kind of a vital, one part of the vital element of Soviet doctrine for like airdrops and stuff. They put a lot of practice in the 70s and 80s with this kind of thing, like how much, what size of force can we realistically drop behind enemy lines to actually sort of
these little light infantry support tanks,
either recon them or actually use them as a specific objective to go and achieve. Because BMDs are airportable, and not only are they airportable, they're airdroppable.
Oh wow!
Okay. I was showing Shay a video yesterday of BMDs being dropped out of aircraft. Which is really cool, because they drop them with like 8 parachutes, like 1 parachute to drag the others out, and then the other 8 open up, and it has like a deflatable, a big inflatable thing like underneath it, so when it lands, that automatically deflates. Cushions it and actually lands. So
that's insane.
The crew,
it's not a soft landing though.
No, it's not a soft landing. The crew jump out with like the supporting infantry, and then the crew run off to the vehicles wherever they've landed. I was going to say,
hopefully they're not inside the tin can.
No.
Turn into a bush. Oh no.
Yeah.
It looks like it has a variety of, I suppose, alternative weapon options as well on there, because
those look like AA, like twin 30s or something like that, or twin 25s or whatever they are. I don't know.
Like an autocannon with a.
That's their little rapid fire 30mm. I think the BMP2s carry those as well. But
the BMD 1s have a 30mm and the BMD 2s have a 70mm, I think.
Yeah, something like the BMP 1 turret basically on the BMD.
Or the other way around, one of those two.
I knew you guys would know this stuff.
We've been looking at it. Don't worry. We've been looking at it.
I'm very much looking at getting a couple.
I love the infantry as well. I think that's some of the infantry that they've put together is really nicely detailed. I think it's a really nice little kit.
They're very characterful. I think between Shay and I, we were kind of like, they're a bit, obviously because it's Red Dawn, they're a bit Hollywood, because you're not going to run into battle with a nice sky blue beret on, but you're gonna, as you can see even here, just like they kind of stand out a bit. But that's the point, really.
Yeah.
Also, handy whenever you're looking at 15mm stuff from the other side of a
True.
6-foot board.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're
Yeah.
that big, and you're going, well,
Those guys are
which
mine.
platoon is that?
I think the whole kit is, I think it's 53 infantry, 15 tanks, 2 aircraft, the HQ team, and the one Onalds, the Onalds sign, which I think is great. But it just looks like a really fun little kit for putting together like a decent starter force for use in the game. Because you've got a good mix of different things there. You've got the infantry, you've got the mechanized element, and then you've got the helicopters to be playing around with as well.
What I'm looking forward to seeing with this book particularly is what the rest of the Warsaw Pact and the Allied forces are getting, because everyone's getting air landing helicopters now.
Cool.
So the West Germans get the best one, to be fair, but we also get Chinooks. That good old classic twin
Chinooks
rotor.
are amazing, yeah.
Chinooks are cool.
Yeah.
But I think even the Soviet forces are getting their flying school bus, Shay, isn't it? The
MI8, yeah.
The MI8,
The
yeah.
Russian school bus, yep.
Yep. So tons of transport helicopters coming in this one, and the I can't remember what the name of the West German one is. It's the really big one, the one you see in the first Transformers movie at the start.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah.
It's one of those, and it's absolutely huge. I can't wait to see the kit for that. So
This gonna turn into some really dynamic games of Team Yankee. Then I would say,
because we've had air landing before, but we've only really seen it properly from the Soviet side with the Heinz working as air landing groups and stuff. But this has given you more potential to not only land troops but actually land vehicles behind your opponent. And doing that, regardless of the quality of that vehicle, it's still a tank behind you, which you don't want it to be there. So,
is all the stuff on the tank shell there? Is that essentially all like extra armor? And
that's
stuff
ERA block. That's
okay, right.
That's blocks of explosive, Ben.
Oh wow! Okay, okay.
Trust us, it works. We
Fair
swear.
enough.
That's how when you came up with RPGs, which do a inverting a cone of copper to make a really needlepoint thing to burn through. ERA is designed to defeat that by making it, when that copper cone hits the explosive detonates and sends its outer shell back at the warhead.
Oh, okay.
It does work.
Wow. That is a lot of fireworks when you get hit by something then.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good way of doing it.
Yeah. But yeah, as you can see from the pre-order page, there's a whole bunch of different bits and pieces for you to go and pick up as well that are coming up down the line as well. There seems to be a big focus on the Soviets, at least to begin with, although they're also going to be throwing in a lot of the kind of, I guess you'd say, allied forces, I suppose, for want of a better word, trying to
NATO,
fight against.
I think is the term.
Yes, yes, an allied force.
NATO and friends.
NATO and friends are going to be fighting back as well, of course. But I think a lot of people are going to be totally won over by the idea of playing as the sort of militia and stuff, and coming up with some really interesting battlegrounds. Obviously, we've talked about the idea of doing like baseball stadiums and that kind of stuff in the past. I think that'd be really cool. But imagine fighting through like proper American city grid streets with big skyscrapers and all that kind of stuff. I think that's going to be phenomenally fun, especially with the airdrop kind of thing, because you could drop people off on top of, skyscrapers and shoot down from the tops of flats and that kind of stuff. So it's going to be really fun and dynamic gameplay that sort of moves away from, the massive open rolling fields of Europe and stuff. So
it means you're going to be able to take your, as some people meme on it, your tank car park, but you're going to be able to drop it behind people. Yes. What's cool is though, there's a mechanic for airdropping stuff. So there's a specific scatter mechanic in the book for how this stuff lands when you actually drop it. So you're not getting it all your own way. It is going to start shifting around as you drop stuff in.
Nice.
Yeah, I was going to say that I know they did it for Flames of War, because I've never really played Team Yankee, but using paras in Flames of War was always dicey at best, because they may be coming down exactly where you want them, or they may be just blown to the four corners of the map, at which point you just get picked off very slowly over time. So it's very much risk rewards depending on what you're doing. But then that's why I was interested to see that there's like specific airborne scenarios as well, where I suppose you're trying to achieve tactical objectives in multiple corners of the map. So you won't have to worry too much if you're blown adrift somewhere that you're not going to be able to get back to a tactical objective, even if it may not have been the one that that specific unit was sent in to secure in the first place.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they said in particular there's there's all of the additional stuff that's coming in that air assault, well, that airborne assault section and stuff like that. But there's 4 scenarios as well, pitted in the kind of core book and things as well. So it'll be really fun to see how it all comes together. Very nice. Yes. As you can imagine, I think everyone's quite excited about this one. So
it's a lot of much needed flavor for your standard armies.
Very cool.
Right. Now we're pining for the fjords.
Yes, yeah. Or like
Pining for the fjords.
Like Slarty Bartfast, maybe we've done a little bit of designing of making all of these.
Yeah.
That's a reference and a half. Jesus. Yep. Anyway, so yeah, this is it's a little bit of a quick one, this one. But this one comes from a company that's called Hammer of the North, and they're going to be coming to Kickstarter very soon with their historical war game that's very sort of focused on a particular style of battle from like Dark Age, Fjord Serpents, Vikings at War. And this is a 10 mil scale Viking longship battle game that they've been coming up with. So as I say, coming to Kickstarter very soon. So there's a couple of different previews of what it's all about, sort of coming up and sort of coming to the fore as they sort of moved into like December when the Kickstarter will actually kick off properly. But essentially, it's a 2-player game where you're going to be taking on the role of a Jarl, and then you'll have your ship filled with your choice of troops that can mix between sort of your standard sort of herdsmen and stuff through to berserkers and all that kind of thing. And then you'll put them into the little tiny ships, as you can see there. And there's even little tiny slots for the bases to go into. I think it's so fun. It's lovely. And then you will actually fight it out in proper battles between ships in the fjords of Northern Europe, which I think is really cool. Each of the ships actually comes with alternative masts as well, because that kind of plays into the gameplay mechanics a little bit. We haven't heard too much about like gameplay properly yet, but that is going to be coming in videos and stuff that they're going to be working on. But as you're sort of playing the game and sailing around, you'll change the ship masts to show how fast your ships are going and if they've come to a stop and all that kind of stuff as well. Obviously, when they've smashed into each other, I mean, that's pretty much it, really. But you'll be sort of like tying together all these different elements to do some really interesting, essentially naval battles, but in the Viking Age, which I think is really cool. From what we've seen of the sculpts, I think they're looking really good as well. Some really nice little blocks of infantry that they've been doing, really good little character models and all that kind of stuff as well. And one of the nice things about this, I think personally, is that if you were diving into the game and you wanted to play out the Fjord Serpents game, you can do, obviously. That's all great. But then you could obviously take these away and play other games with them as well, which I think is really nice.
They look like they're 10 mil.
Yeah, they're all 10 mil.
Yeah, so they will fit into so many games out there.
Yeah. Another thing that was really nice about this one, because I was sort of researching around and asking the guy a bunch of questions about it and stuff, and he was saying that they've done like a bunch of historical research on it as well. So all the troops that you see would have been the kind of troops that would have been fighting on long ships and that kind of thing. And the ships that they've taken have been based on sort of archaeological evidence and what they've seen in museums and that kind of stuff. Obviously, a lot of stuff to do with the Vikings and that kind of period is fairly open to interpretation anyway. So there's a little bit of the sagas in there when it comes to this kind of stuff. But why wouldn't you want to play something as epic as, you know, a mighty Viking saga on the tabletop? And and then it looks very cool. Yes. So there is like wind direction and all that kind of stuff for you to take into account. And there you can see the different sail types. So obviously you have sails down and sails up and that kind of thing. So
it's a lot of 10 mil troops.
It is, yes. And very nicely detailed, as you can see.
Yeah, I've no problem with this at all. Even from just even if you're not planning on playing the game, getting your hands on a couple of nice dragon ships and a load of 10 mil figures for it.
It was really nice. I shared this on social media and stuff on our Facebook, and the amount of people that were like liking and loving this and stuff. And I was like, well, this is strange. I didn't think it would take off. But everyone's been like, oh my God, this is so amazing. I get to have 10 mil ships and I get to play out Viking naval battles. This is cool. So yeah, there's clearly an appetite for this kind of game out there. And it'll be really fun to see how it all comes together.
That looks like the one from Norway.
Yeah, is that the big one that's sort of set in?
It's almost completely intact.
Yeah,
it has a very similar crowd. It's probably what they based on. Have they said Are these going to be metal or plastic, or are they not really given details for the Kickstarter yet?
Haven't said anything about the materials and stuff, but I would imagine we're going to be seeing probably like a mix of metal and plastic, probably, or maybe resin. But as I say, I think the focus is on this being a miniatures game in a box, rather than it being like a board game, essentially. Yeah. So they're probably going to go down that route of using materials that we're very familiar with and that kind of thing. So yeah, keep an eye out for it. I'll definitely be covering it in more detail when the Kickstarter go live and that kind of stuff.
Okay,
I might talk about it again. So yeah, looks really fun. So yeah,
always good to lay about you, showing people what you want to do in life. Yeah. No Norwegians here, I notice. Oh, there's our seal being changed.
Yeah, I think the elements that they're showing there are the 3D printable ones that they've already been working on stuff. But
prototypes.
Yeah. But yeah, it just looks so evocative. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, being able to turn on a dime and then smash into your opponent. Well, actually, you wouldn't be smashing in because ship's too valuable to smash into it. Getting very, very close.
Pull alongside very close and then jump off.
Murder everybody very gently.
Yes.
On board, so you don't actually
stop putting holes in my ship. Yeah.
Yeah. That's an interesting little thing because it's one we often see Age of Sail a lot, and then obviously more modern World War I, World War II gets an awful lot of days in court, so to speak. But for a nation or group of nations that were so intrinsically attached to boating, even today, you can't go near the place without running into boaters all over the place. You would think we'd have seen more Viking-based.
Would have thought so.
Because there are accounts of large sort of fleets of various Scandinavian ships attacking each other. Yeah, that's fascinating stuff. Is this their first?
Their first Kickstarter, yeah. It comes from a guy in Australia. So, yeah, he can work on this. Yeah.
It comes from a land down under.
Comes from a land down under, yeah.
I'm excited. Keen, plucky for the fray. I like it
Very
a
good.
lot. But then, Vikings, they're always good fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
Speaking of good fun, or in this case, genre-defining comic books.
Yes. Yeah.
What are they up to over tonight?
So we're going to be diving into a bunch of new releases coming out for the Batman miniature game. They're doing their Black Friday sale and all kinds of things going on at the moment. A whole bunch of different companies are. In fact, make sure to go and check out our Black Friday deals list. It's on our website. So there's a whole bunch of stuff there that you can go check out. But anyway, away from that, we also got the regular releases from Night Models for the Batman Miniatures game, starting off with a whole bunch of supervillains from Arkham Asylum. So if you're familiar with the video game series, which is fantastic, definitely worth a go if you've not tried it, they've sort of brought together a bunch of the different characters in the Arkham Asylum aesthetic and put them together in a nice little collection for you to use in your games. So you've got, as you can see there, Penguin, the Joker, Two-Face, Harley Quinn, and Scarecrow, looking very cool indeed. Always a fan of that kind of Arkham look to the models, and I think they've kind of nailed it here once again with these sculpts. Really nice stuff indeed. Beyond that, we've also got a whole bunch of other villains that have been put together in little sets. So you've got Bane, who's roided out on his Venom, although I think this is the Titan Overdrive version of him. From the game, which is looking very cool. I love the idea of playing like a really nice dynamic scenario with him, where he actually, in kind of Marvel Crisis Protocols fashion, smashes through things and throws things around.
Just one against everyone. Everybody trying to take down Bane.
Yeah, I think that'd be amazing. Yeah, it'd be very cool. But again, fantastic model there that's come to life really nicely. There's also a model for Killer Croc, again, based on the Arkham Asylum aesthetic there too. So, again, set up a really fun scenario that you could put out where you have all the different rafts sections built into the sewer system underneath Arkham, and then Batman's got to run across them as like Killer Croc leaps out to try and attack him and that kind of thing. So that could be really fun. As you can see, he's already claimed the life of one security guard.
Just look at that, yeah.
So
it's unfortunate.
Yeah, or as he thinks of it, a tinned meal. But yes.
Have to peel them out of it first.
Yeah. And
hate it when they come with packaging.
And then last but not least for the villains, we also have the Joker, but in this Titan form. So if you remember the end of the game for Arkham Asylum there, you've got the Titan version of the Joker kicking ass and taking names in his roided out state. And
another just out on Venom, is he?
Yeah, well, it's the Venom Titan serum or whatever it is that they use for this. That
haven't played the game.
Oh well, they are very good. They're definitely worth playing, which is very nice. But yeah, so if you're interested in diving into a little bit of Batman, and
looks like Benji from Osprey, actually,
with that with the hair, yes, it definitely does actually. Maybe we should send in that as well. Hey Benji, they made a model of you. Yeah. But yeah, so another fantastic villain miniature you can see there. All of the miniatures that Night Models are doing now, I think they've moved away from their sort of classic resin production to doing the thermoplasticky Seocast.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that should mean that you get a bunch more detail and a lot less of the kind of quirks and stuff that you normally get with the resin production. I
did an unboxing for the
Batman starter set,
yeah. And the detail is excellent. They had used Seocast previously. The last
for a few things,
the last I'm trying to remember the name of it. It had the Joker's Fun Fair as the terrain and stuff in it.
I remember.
They may just have called it the Batman Miniatures Game Starter Set. It may not have had a special name. They used an earlier version of Seocast in that, and it was very rubbery. The new stuff is firmer. It still has flex, but it's a better firmness and has really captured the detail remarkably well, especially on emo Batman walking around with his head up like everybody's against him.
Well, we might be seeing a version of him in the near future. So yeah, as well as the villains, we also got a couple of versions of Batman. So there's this one, which is Batman from the Cult miniseries. When he gets a bit brainwashed.
Legendary front cover right there.
Yeah. I had to do a little. I'd not read this series, I must admit, but I did a little bit of digging on it, and it sounds fantastic.
Oh, it was only 4 books long. You know that Batman meme where he's slapping Robin?
Yes.
Yep.
From like the Golden Age Batman. In the Cult, there's a bit where Jason Todd, before he gets battered to death and exploded, there's a reverse shot exactly the same as that Golden Age one, but it's Robin slapping Batman and telling him to snap out of it across 2 panels, and I've always enjoyed that so much.
Yeah. So if you're obviously diving into playing out that particular miniseries or something on the tabletop, this would be a great miniature for that. I also think, going back to the Arkham aesthetic, during the game, his outfit gets more bedraggled and beaten up and that kind of stuff, and this would be a really fun miniature
really
for that.
Good to put in against them.
Also, there are lots of different versions of Batman that Night Models have done. And a lot of them are kind of like very big, almost display style models. I think this one's really great because it's just Batman looking like he's going to beat 7 shades of hell out of somebody. And I think that's great. So it's really nice.
Our editors, thank you for the self-censoring.
Yes, I did.
I'd like the fact that, because there's been so many different books over the years and the different interpretations by different writers, that if there's one that you really like, chances are, if they haven't already, they will get to us.
Yes.
Because I think they've even done Red Rain, Vampire Batman.
They've done so many. They've done like all the Frank Miller ones.
There was even for a very brief time, and he's not there anymore, and I assume it's licensing. There was a 1960s Adam West Batman
at one
point, which I would love if they could bring that back and do the villains from that as well. So the King Tut and the Mad Hatter and all the ones that you never see.
They did the Boy Wonder and his little tighty greenies, I suppose, as well.
It was so very good. But yeah, the cult is more or less responsible for Batman and DC Comics from then to now. Whenever people go, Marvel's really bright and shiny, and DC's it's constantly in the rain and it's dark. That's all thanks to like the Cult and then Dark Knight Rises and those pair of books, or I suppose if you include Moore's Killing Joke in there, those 3 sort of changed them from being campy, bright poppy colours into everything's dark and miserable, and I have to beat you to death. So, nice
very
stuff.
Nice version of that. There's also, if you like the idea of moody Batman, there is also Robat Bat and Bat on his Bat bike for you to play around with as well. So if you want, because obviously there's the version of him that already exists in the starter set and all that kind of stuff. So if you already got the version of Batman on foot, as it were, now you can have him mounted up on the back of a bike, not the bat of a bike. Jesus, too many bats, and have him herring around the streets of Gotham and kicking ass and taking names in his own special way.
Very, very special way.
Yeah, I will also say it's definitely worth having a look at the Batman miniature game. I know a lot of people kind of are like, what edition is this? Well, that kind of thing.
Technically, it's the same as the previous edition.
They have solidified a lot of stuff over the last little while and kind of condensed it down. So it's a lot easier to dive into the game and have fun with it. And it's a very dynamic and different game from what you might normally think. There's lots of different objectives to dive into and have fun with. It's a little bit asymmetrical in that regard as well. So it's definitely worth having a look at it and seeing what you think.
The only issue for me is that app, because we all know how I handle technology, which is badly at best. But if you can get past the fact that apps are a thing that the kids use, and try and manhandle your way through it, all the list building part is in there, so that's handy. The rules, thankfully, are printed in the book. We may have to play some Batman miniatures game. I have a full set of
sitting around somewhere.
Well, I've got the miniatures game that they've sent, but I've got painted one from a previous edition. So I've got Batman, some police, and I've got Poison Ivy and some of her plant friends.
That'd be fun to see played out.
So we could make a really nice Gotham in the cage. There's loads.
We've got loads of good buildings.
Yeah, just all off to John's left as he's sitting there. There's loads of high rises and stuff. Your other left, John.
Other left. Oh,
yeah.
There.
Right. But maybe we'll have a look at that then in the future as well. See if I can paint up Colin Farrell, and then we can spend all time pointing out that it was Colin Farrell, and people going, I didn't realize it was Colin Farrell.
Doing the meme,
Right.
Yeah. Moving on, another little bit of quick news for everyone to dive into as well. So if you are a fan of Frostgrave and you like that game system, or if you like Stargrave, Ghost Hub, Archipelago, or Rangers of Shadow Deep, Joseph McCullough has put together a new supplement by himself, basically, for you to dive into and have fun with. This is in no way needed for you to actually play the game. It's just a bit of fun. But as McCullough himself said, the D20 table wasn't enough. Welcome, the D1000 table.
Nice.
So he has put together a D1000 table of mutations to affect your wizards, your champions, your warriors, and everything in between for use in Frostgrave. So if you too want to drink a potion and turn your arm into a crab and do the lobster, then you now have the option to do so. He says that the mutations range from the utterly silly, like just randomly sneezing, through to weird and wonderful stuff that could turn you into incredible epic monsters and everything in between. So yes, very cool.
But that's what you want with mutations.
Exactly.
When you've got crazy mutos, you want them to have that.
Yes.
Warfrip did it very well, as did 40k actually at the very start, before they started taking the more roleplay side out and making it more miniature game focused, because you would have these massive tables and you go eyes on stalks, +1 initiative or something, really weird, couldn't be caught from behind because they would bend back. But then you could have other ones that had like no in-game effects at all. It was just like really bad eczema.
Just there for modeling purposes.
It's just there for novelty value. And there was nothing worse than rolling up a really good character and then getting some tragic mutation, like ear in the middle of your forehead.
Break out the green stuff and start working on that.
They were always good fun. So it's nice to see. And like Joe often does, none of the books are really necessary. So if you're happy with just the core Frostgrave book, you just stick to the core Frostgrave book and just keep playing. But if there's something that takes your fancy in any of them, or you think, that would be fun to add in, you can pick and choose between them. So I always like that. I like the expansiveness of it without being forced into taking on every single thing and building up an extensive library. You can just cut and paste and pick and choose between whatever you and your group wants to do. So eyeballs on stocks time.
Yeah, and as I say, it can be reused beyond Frostgrave as well. So you've got Stargrave or Ghost Archipelago, which use the same systems essentially, and Rage of Shadow Deep. You can just tweak things and add them to those games.
Stargrave, Shay. We could end up with that terrible psionic Dr. X. I can't say what I'm going to say next, but
with an ear on his back,
actually being a proper Mewtwo.
Mhm.
His mutant ability can't walk.
Perfect. Yep, perfect.
Dee.
Comes out in a little hopper chair. Yeah. Right. So as moving on from a little bit of fantasy, we also have some stuff from the Mortal Realms and from the Grimdark future, because Games Workshop did their big old Warhammer preview last weekend. Of course, they did it after our Weekender show. Why would they not do it? So that they would help us. There we go. But anyway, so a big set of reveals for Warhammer 40,000, especially focused around the Armies of Chaos. We got some new stuff coming out for the World Eaters. So Khorne got a bit of a glow up. These guys are called the Eightbound, and in proper heavy metal fashion, they are Space Marines, or traitor Space Marines, I suppose, who have been locked inside a vault, and then 8 demons are sort of fed into the vault with them, and they have to battle within their mind to try and take control of the demons that are trying to infest their bodies. If they manage to control the demons, then they burst out the other side as proper badass berserkers with the power of 8 demons inside them.
Ding. Yeah, demons
All I can
inside.
think of is searching inside yourself, but to metal.
I would have also accepted the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo.
Yes. And so if you're looking to run around as blood-crazed maniacs, then you can do that with the 8-bound. There's also, as you can see here, the Exalted 8-bound. So when you've become properly harmonious with your 8 demons, you can become exalted and essentially become more or less a Khorne possessed in many ways, where you get access to a hell of a lot more abilities and strength and power and all that kind of stuff, and a little less of your humanity. Although you were very human to begin with.
Yeah, I always felt that they were lacking power, strength, and had too much humanity. often said that about Khorne.
Yeah.
Because they were stacking up the baby skulls for the thrones.
Exactly, yes. But as well as that, we also got a look at some of the sort of World Eater themed cultists, which I think is really nice. And I love that Games Workshop is going down the route of actually building on the cultists in different ways and providing us with very thematic versions of them for use in your games. So these are the Jackals, and they are basically normal humans, essentially, who have decided to throw their lot in with the World Eaters. There's also some abhumans in there as well. That guy there with the big skull mace, or skull flail, essentially, is an abhuman. But they are cultists who have decided to throw themselves in front of the enemies of the World Eaters to soak all the bullets, because that's exactly how they'll be used, with tanks on their backs that are filled with toxins and all sorts of different things that kind of make them berserk and crazy on the battlefield. But murder juice. There's a special additional thing. A drop of World Eater tainted blood is put into each of their kind of toxin packs on their back, so that they're infused by a little bit of that kind of Primaris or Space Marine spirit as well on the tabletop, which I think is kind of cool and sort of sends them over the edge. So.
I love the chainsaw punch dagger.
Yes.
Is that a functional chainsaw? Who knows?
It doesn't matter if it cuts my hand off or yours. It's much of a muchness to Khorne. So yeah,
Khorne does not care from where the blood flow.
Yeah, I like that they've also got the kind of Black Templar thing going on, where they've got the manacles with the chains onto their weapons, so they can never lose them.
It's from a whole different thing. Like the Templars do it because it's ritual. These guys do it because if I drop it, at least I can drag it back or use it as a flail.
Just swing it around your head. Yeah,
mummies put their weapons on strings like mittens.
But yeah, so you got the Jackals there looking very cool and very mean. This also comes with, obviously, the release of the Codex, which is very soon. So this is going to give you access to the new Khorne Berserkers as your kind of core Space Marines for the World Eaters. You've got the return of Angron at the back there on the left, as you can see. Kicking ass and taking names. There's also the Chaos Lord and the Juggernaut, which you can see off to the right-hand side. I'm just going to point out, those Dark Angels are screwed. But yeah, anyway. And there's also going to be
no loss.
They're not going to tell anyone if they were, though.
That's true. Yeah.
Very true.
And then, as you can see in the background, there's a whole bunch of the other stuff that's going to be available in the Codex. So you've obviously got the Exalted, as you can see, and the 8-bound, your standard Jackals and regular Space Marines. And that the I can't remember what he's called. Is he the Skull Lord? Who's the big guy on the
track thing?
The big track thing.
The Skull Lord.
The Skull Lord, whatever his name is. Lord
Nobody
of Skulls.
cares.
Lord of Skulls?
Nobody cares because it's a daft looking model.
It is so stupid. But I really like that they made the leg kit for him, or somebody made a leg kit.
Somebody made a leg kit. Yeah. It wasn't GW.
Just took a defiler here.
Yeah. And so you're able to play with him if you really want to as well. I don't know why you would, but yeah. Also, in the top right, if you look just a minute, it looks like there's a sneaky little Chaos Lord up there that I've not seen before.
Karn?
Oh, no. Maybe that's the new card. That could be
no, it looks too stand upright for Karn.
He does have a massive axe and is covered in bony armor.
That's true, yeah. But I've not seen that before, so that's amazing.
Sneaky boy.
Sneaky. He's like the assassin hiding in the big diorama of Warhammer world. I've never found him.
Oh,
there we go.
That's terrible.
We also got some news about what's coming up for the kind of expanded storyline of 140,000. I don't know what you guys think about this one. So Arcs of Omen is going to be the new kind of campaign-esque thing that's going to be happening for 140,000 that starts in the winter, moves through into kind of like the center of next year. I wonder what's going to happen at the end of it. 10th edition. So there's going to be 4 books. The first of them is Abaddon. Then you have Angron. And then the third one is Vashtor, which we'll look at in a second. And then finished off is a redacted version. But it says Auto Xenos on it. So it's not going to be about chaos, which is quite interesting.
It's going to be Nids.
Probably going to be Nids, yeah. But yes, so we're going to see the arrival of all these big celebrities on the tabletop doing their thing and
losing horribly.
Yeah, probably.
Losing laughably, sorry.
Yeah. Although if Abaddon's track record is anything to go by, he's just going to send the Arcs of Omens into planets and destroy them like he did with Cadia, I guess. But yes, Cadia stands and all that.
If it worked once.
If it worked once, keep doing it, yeah.
Maybe they'll end time it. They'll get to the last book. Yes. They'll just go, right, that's it. 40k's gone, that universe is destroyed.
Yeah. We'll have 140k Age of Angron.
Yeah. More upbeat, uplifting, poppy, cheap. Everything becomes chibi.
Yes.
It's still like a Japanese
chibi,
early morning game show.
That'd be cool. Yeah. Let's do that.
Look forward to the videos of YouTubers burning their 40k
armies. Yeah. We also got to see a miniature for Vashtor, who we saw in the artwork there. So Vashtor, the Arcaphane, is essentially the arms dealer. Think of him as the Lord of War Nicolas Cage of the 140,000 universe.
He did not age well.
Yeah, this is what happens when you have too much plastic surgery. Yeah. So this is Vashtor. He is he's not a demon prince. So he's not a mortal who's become a demon. He's a demon in his own right from within the Eye of Terror and all that kind of stuff. Who has been slowly working away in the background, because of course he has. He's not a new character. That has been sort of working away in the background and has now found his time to make his mark upon the galaxy. As they said during the preview for this guy, every kind of big technological shift within the grim dark universe has kind of empowered Vashtor. So, for example, the Necrontyr turning into the Necrons and that kind of stuff. That has been a big thing on Vashtor and given him power. They also pointed out Belisarius Cawl tinkering around in the background and doing all of his weird stuff with the Primaris probably made Vashtor very happy in his little pocket of the galaxy.
This is the Deus Ex Machina that is going to allow Chaos to have Primaris Marines.
Pretty much, probably.
I'm going to call him
you're right.
Space Bellicor.
Yeah,
he is very Space Bellicor, yes.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, real Bellicor's like, oi. But yeah, so when he is manifested in the real world, in real space, he is made up of the twisted offerings of the fleshy subjects that are given up in his name, alongside all sorts of different pieces of technology you can see there. He carries a big hammer, which would make sense for someone who forges things for the chaos powers. And apparently, he's a big fan of the old Dark Mechanicum. And while we didn't get anything sort of properly hinted at for that, I still think we're going to see Dark Mechanicum coming up as a proper option for people on the tabletop in the near future. I think it'll be really cool. So yeah,
It's
some very nice stuff.
tiny little stabby wings.
He's got very little tiny stabby wings, yes, and he's got a little Edward Scissorhands hand as well. So yeah, as someone pointed out, he's got a very shocked face. He's like, "Ooh."
Did not expect to be here today.
But yeah, obviously that's what I think about this. What do you guys think about specifically you, John and Shay? What do you think about what's happening with 40K and this kind of evolving storyline? Are you interested in it?
I'm giving up on the storyline because just when it starts to feel like it's settling into some sort of narrative, they go, "Lol, no."
$4.
It took me 3 years to get over Belisarius Call being in the background for 10,000 years and never having been mentioned until 4 years ago. It took me a long time to get used to Gilliman being okay with that. So
That's a boot for you.
I'm just going to build my Cadians, and I'm just going to play my
Live
Cadians.
in your little Cadian pocket of space.
I'm going to just scream Cadia stands every time someone says, Abaddon's really good, and I'm like,
Cadia stands.
Cadia stands.
Get out.
Yeah. You need to have one of those little buttons. You need a button or something on your phone where you can just hit the button and it just says Cadia stands as you're fighting or something.
I'll do that.
Yeah. Moving away from the grim darkness of the far future and what they've got planned for that, there's also a bunch of releases previews that came out. What's happening in Warhammer Age of Sigmar? So there's something for the Grand Alliance of Chaos and something for the Grand Alliance of Destruction as well. So we got only one new miniature revealed for the Beasts of Chaos, which was the new Beast Lord.
Watches all the Beastman fans go, "Oh, we're finally getting models."
Yeah, this is clearly aimed at Discourse Miniatures. She's like, finally, I've got a new Beastman or something. But only one. There'll be a 20-minute video on that next week.
Yeah, don't worry. You've still got your sort of weird muscle-suited Minotaurs in that range.
I'm having flashbacks to the last time they did a big release for them, and it was just the Cygor kit.
The Cygor and stuff.
And everybody thought, "Oh, this is it. Beastmen are finally getting their own army book." It's like, yeah. No, we're not. No.
It's a real shame because I really like the aesthetic of a lot of the Beastman stuff. And I like the idea of just making a horde of beastmen that charge across the battlefield and can bring things on from different locations and ambush and all that kind of stuff.
Ambush and skirmish and
they put a really
chariots and all sorts.
Yeah. They put a really cool mechanic in there for the herd stones with the last version of the book where you can have that set up at the back of the board and you can do like rituals at the back with your brave shames that will like empower your beasts and that kind of thing. It just feels a real shame. Obviously, we don't know, but it feels like a real shame that the beastmen are only getting this maybe for now. I was thinking to myself, maybe we'll see some more stuff in the future, but then I thought about the ogres and they just got that one like bounty hunter type guy and that was it really. So that was a shame, but yeah, we'll see what they do with it anyway.
It's not bad. He is striking the actor's pose, mind you.
Yes, yes.
No!
Or it's the conservative sort of MP kind of power stance that they had in all their photos back when they were doing the election. Yeah. So. But anyway,
flags behind him.
I like that he's still got the classic elf head strapped to his belt, which was always the way to go. But yeah, really nice stuff there. But yeah, nice sort of model. Hopefully we get some more stuff for them in the future. For the Gloomspike Gits and the Goblins of the Immortal Realms, we also got some new stuff.
They fared much better.
Yeah, this is also very interesting. So, and it was something that was pointed out in a couple of videos I'd seen for this. So we're getting the Snarlfangs Riders. So these are your kind of classic wolf riding goblins that you'll know from kind of the old one and that kind of stuff, but updated. Obviously, we had the Snarlfangs Riders box set that came out for Warhammer Underworlds, I want to say. There was a set of wolf riding goblins, which was really nice. And I think that's obviously spurred them on to produce them in different sets for use in the sort of general games of Warhammer Age of Sigmar. But something that was pointed out about this is that they don't look inherently Mortal Realmsy. They kind of look like they could be both useful for the Mortal Realms and Age of Sigmar, but would also perfectly fit into the old world. And obviously that's coming down the pipeline. So maybe, just maybe, this is a hint as to kind of what they want to try and do with the sets.
I like that they feel more... Do you know the way we were talking about a box set months ago where it was like, these guys look really simple. They're not covered in just stuff. They're not just
detailed, not
detail.
Busy. Yeah, kind of
exactly.
Yeah.
These feel really tidy. They feel really tight. Like the sculpts are nice. There's plenty of detail where it needs to be, which is what I like. Yeah. And they feel very classic.
They do, which I think is really good, and a lot of people are gonna love these. I think they were one of the big standouts of all the stuff they previewed. Really, was this kind of stuff. But yeah, really nice stuff there for the Gloomspite Gits. But if you are interested in playing out kind of Warhammer Underworlds and enjoying that kind of stuff, there was also a bunch of releases for Warhammer Underworlds. So one of the nice things about the goblins, well, obviously there's the battle tomes coming and all that kind of stuff as well, which we'll get to. But yeah, so that's coming down the pipeline. And also, actually, before we move into the loonies, if you go to the next image, there's also a look at what's coming up down the road. So obviously we've got the 3 battle tomes coming sort of this winter, so throughout December and into January. Spring sees 5 new books coming out, which is kind of wild. And then there's 1 more coming in summer. So I'll be interested to see what the spread is for those and what kind of models we see coming out. I'm really hoping that summer sees like the big release of 10th edition for 40k, but also the reinvention of the 3 cities for Age of Sigmar, because they've been showing lots of different little previews of their kind of updated version of them.
They're going to be lurking.
That might be, I think that might be them, and we might get to see a much better look at them, moving away from them just using the kind of free guild Empire State Troopers that we've seen in the past, and providing us with some more original sculpts for the humans of the Mortal Realms. That would be really fun. But going back to the loonies, Grinkrak's Loon Court has been previewed for Warhammer Underworlds. So this is a new warband of goblins led by Grinkrak, as you can see there, who has sired each of his noble Gloomspite Gits with his halberd, as you can see, and is now taking them off on a proper quest, not chaos, a proper quest into the underworld in order to do the moon's bidding. And so we have a nice set of very kind of medieval knightly themed goblins to use on the tabletop. So you've got like the little kind of weird goblin purveys there with the kind of squig launcher on the top of it, which I think is amazing. There's basically a goblin polo player.
Doesn't riding into battle, though. It just ends in a mallet. That's
yes. So you've got him riding out, which I think is fantastic. You also got these, again, more fantastic looking goblin knights. So you got them in that kind of really awesome moon style armor with the helmets that close down, which I think is fantastic. And who wouldn't want to charge someone with a squig on the end of a stick? Probably a lot more dangerous than having a bit of metal on the end of it, I would say. And if it comes off, you could just let it go, I suppose. So yeah.
Why you should always tie your weapons on with string.
There's also the guy there with his kind of like mushroom blowpipe.
Blowpipe, yeah.
As they said in the preview for this, nobody knows how it works, and neither does he. But it seems to do the job. I assume he's just like firing little toxin sacks at people and that kind of stuff. I think it would be quite nice. And then, of course, you've got a few more of the knights, as you can see there, sort of standard guys there with the kind of, again, the lance, spear, sword style thing going on, and the little moon shields and all that kind of thing.
I love that they never let go of the comedy element of the goblins.
Yes.
I think, from Squig Hoppers on, like everything is just, you look at it and it just makes you want to smile.
Yes. I think that's great about these because it kind of engenders a real sense of fun and gets you thinking about fun and different paint schemes and all that kind of stuff in the game as well.
I like that they've lent into more of the Brian Froud-esque armor on them as well. So that they're no longer just running about in little tiny robes. They have these ridiculous big
very impractical
nose cover. There's no way that is going down over that nose.
No.
not easily anyway. I just imagine him holding it and just pushing his nose up as he's pulling the visor down.
Or you get someone to punch him in the face first and then close it.
Yeah, that would work.
Yeah.
They are a terrific looking set. He's got a Jimmy Hill based chin mask.
Yes.
One for the kids again. Always with the references for the kids.
But I think it's a really fun little set. And as you say, John, I think the Gloomspites, the goblins, get served pretty well by the Mortal Realms and Games Workshop.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Sweet cool. To the beat. Right. I think that wraps us up for the news. We shall return momentarily for some 3D printing and Kickstarters. We are back, and we've got an inky-dinky little 3D printing as the shiznay.
Yes, yeah.
This is exciting and different and new and strange and bizarre. Unexpected.
Yeah, so this is somewhat following on from a little tiny kind of 3D printing in the preview that we did earlier. I've just sworn. Well done, John. There we go.
That's all right.
The preview that we did a couple of weeks ago. I mean, you may have been off, Jerry. I can't remember. I think you probably were.
I was off when they announced it.
So yes, so
an email going, what's going on with this?
So the Atlantic digital range has now been launched by the folks at Wargames Atlantic, and I thought we should have a quick look at it because they've actually put a lot more out to begin with than I initially thought they were going to do. So you may remember when we talked about it in our little preview that they'd kind of put up like a form so that you could kind of ask what you wanted to come out first, right? And I was working on the assumption that would be like, they'll do one set for November and they'll see how it goes. And that'll be it, based on what people have said. But no, they've released pretty much everything that they previewed back then with a whole bunch of additional stuff as well. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's a fascinating idea. So for people who aren't aware, I don't know how much of this you covered in the previous one because I don't watch the show unless I'm on it. That's how big an ego I am. If I'm on it, I'll watch it from start to finish. I was amazing. But when they announced that they were doing this was sort of twofold. One, it's to make pieces accessible that they wouldn't be able to do as just a plastic kit. So it wouldn't be cost effective to do a single hero in plastic on a tool. But also some of these sets will be available in plastic down the line, but it's just they've already got the sculpts done, but the tooling is obviously the thing that will bottleneck the whole plan behind it. So things like, I imagine the Gurkhas for the Imperial Conquest, which we'll have a look at, and the Russians and that sort of thing, that the larger meteor sets will eventually come out in hard plastic, but for 3D printing type people, I would imagine. But, you can lay your hands on things like Flandu. Yeah. On Flan, boy, yeah.
It was one of the things we talked about. I think you raised it, John. The thing that's really nice about these is this allows them, and as you were saying, Jerry, to kind of bolt on stuff to existing kits as well. Like one of the kits that we were really taken by when we looked at the preview was the
Afghans?
The Afghan one.
I knew it was how did I know it was the Afghans?
Because it allows you to take the. There you go. Allows you to take the stuff from from
the colonial wars,
into the 1900s, and turn them into modern fighters. Because the actual sort of basic dress hasn't necessarily changed for a lot of the tribesmen.
Yeah,
and stuff,
the throbes and all the rest are spot on, and that's enough to let you do everything from the 80s onwards. So from when the CIA first started sticking their oar in, all the way through to
from another kind of imperial conquest
to today, when CIA are probably still sticking their oar in, it's all good to go. Or if you want to do modern stuff like Spectre and that sort of thing, that's one of the sets I want to see if Hudson will send us, because I've got a spare box of Afghan warriors that I wasn't planning on using for Imperial, but then we could do up for modern gaming. And it'd be interesting to see how well they match or fit, or is there much of a... Presumably it's all set so you just hit print like John and Shay do, and it comes out at the right size for the plastic models they've already made.
I would imagine it's totally sort of themed to what they've already done.
Yeah. Having to rescale things would make me cry, I imagine. Well, actually, having hit print would make me cry, so I'd leave that to other people. But yeah, it's been an interesting thing to see this appear. So you've got a mix of sort of heroes, add-ons, and then full units as well. I will start throwing up some of the Napoleonics because these are great. I love that. Yeah. We'll have a look at the Ottoman heads as well, because why not? We're in that neck of the woods. And oh, look, Gurkhas.
The alien trees are really fun as well. That's a nice little weird aside for them to be going down. That kind of thing. So
imagine based on the way that looks, that's very similar to the Prussian
big army build kit.
The army builder 60-man box. So it's as little as humanly possible for gluing together when you're trying to do massive regiments.
Yeah.
But I like the fact they've still got the various styles of hat in there. Mm-hmm. And those huge cockade plumes. But yeah, I'm surprised people haven't been crying out for the Spanish, because they previewed the Spanish so long ago. So very long ago. Which means they've got them somewhere. Although hopefully, because they're not in this, that means they're in the tooling queue and actually about to come out in plastic finally, after having wound us all up for so long. Hudson, if you're watching, Hudson, where's our Spanish?
I was so fearful that the World War One British that I wanted were going to end up on this.
We're going to end up on this
plastic kit, and I was like, oh, thank God, they're actually making the plastic kit. It's fine. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. Then you've got your Ottoman heads, fezzes. So handy if you've got the World War One German box, or if you're looking to do things like the handshot for World War Two.
You could do the mummy, and one of those could be Benny.
Yeah,
on the wrong side of the river.
This one here, probably.
Yeah. Were there any particular kits and stuff from this that you'd seen that you guys were interested in, Shane? John?
I would have been interested in their maybe like the Eisenkern sort of coming over into some of the 3D print stuff. The guys that are not Steel Legion, I can't remember the names of them.
Ramjäger. Ramjäger, not Ramhauser.
I think we're more likely to see the Ramjäger, simply because the Eisenkern are printed under license.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they would go out there on the STL. So I think anything like that, or like the Quar that are licensed in, we probably won't see in here. Although never say never. But I know there's a lot more in the way of the Eisenkern.
I think in general, though, this, like, doing either full kits that are just not viable for making into plastic, or as we've seen with the Afghan stuff, like making conversion kits. I think going down that conversion kit line is probably the best way for other companies as well as Wargames Atlantic to actually carry forward with this sort of stuff. The way to embrace 3D printing, for an example, in Flames of War, when you have the Shermans that have the Calliope launchers and the Tulip launchers and stuff, instead of just producing that in resin, going ahead and making that a STL that's available for people to actually download and print themselves. Obviously, keep the physical product if you've already made it, but give us that extra option. And for the likes of GW, your shoulder pads for Heresy, your helmet options for Heresy, that would have been an excellent way for them to look at it and carry forward.
STL upgrade kits would be a really good way of doing it.
I really like this. I like the fact they've done stuff for the Grognards, because you've already got, obviously,
they've totally expanded it.
The heavy weapons. So these are weird because these are essentially a half kit. The horses themselves aren't printable. The horses is their new plastic horse set. So the armor,
the comparison stuff,
it all goes on the top, and then you've got an alternate head. But that's the horse itself, you're not having to print out. You just get the plastic kit and then stick it on top. Hence the horse curtains up the top there. So that's a really nice way of doing, sort of Rough Rider types, and then doing one-off Sergeant as well. Just to add a bit. One-off Sergeant. I mean, there's quite nice. Oh, it's got tiny metallic legs. There are officers with baguettes and bottles of wine and stuff on the sprue, but it's nice to have alternate. Why are you laughing, Shay? It's true. There's a baguette on the sprue.
Is there actually?
Nice to know that stereotypes continue into the future.
Yeah. That's what happens when you get picked up by aliens and dropped into the future on a death planet. Speaking of death planets, alien trees.
I really like these.
I want me some of that from a Tyranids.
Yes, yeah. Like a proper alien bio world kind of thing.
Yep, definitely.
Seems to be flavour of the week, that.
Lovely tentacles.
Carapace mushrooms there, did you see that?
Yeah, it's just it feels like they've basically just let their sculptors go. What would you like to work on?
I imagine there's been brainstorming sessions where they're thinking like, we could do farm animals. And they're going, yeah, we could, but is anybody likely to buy them?
Who's going to buy them? Yeah.
Because once you've got a set of farm animals for games like Saga, for example, that may require you to Clash of Spears. Katana's also has things where you have to go and like herd cattle.
You don't exactly have modern ducks, do you, I suppose?
Yeah, you don't need many. You probably got them for either dressing something or the others on that, or for objectives. And then once you've got them, you don't need them again. I've got a set of sheep that I made Lloyd paint, so I don't need any more sheep.
Cat. Yay. That is a really buff cat. Jesus.
That is a buff cat, but it's not half as buff as that bison.
Yeah.
Wow. Look at the flanks on it.
Duckies.
Ducks.
Somebody was asking for swans this week, and annoyingly I could only find one company making 28mm swans, which is Stonehaven, and it's very, very difficult to get that swan. So there's a niche in the market, people.
That'll break your arm,
if
right?
there's not a swan in here. Oh yeah, God, yeah. Definitely break your arm.
Doggo.
Oh.
But anyway, yeah. So those are all quite cute. But then it's expanding the plastic ranges. So expanding the Aztecs, expanding the halflings.
Oh my God.
Very good if you're planning on running stalwarts with great weapons for Crush 1 and Kings of War, just saying.
Yes, I did think these would probably be quite up your alley.
Right up my Strasser, yes. And if I hadn't just built 80 halflings from Wargames Atlantic to pad out my infantry, I'd be probably on these like fly on stink. But yeah, I really like those. They'd be good for the halfling knights as well. And kobolds, tiny little dog-faced so-and-sos, proper, not the dragon-faced ones, dog-faced bastards. They're the ones we want. They're going to be teeny tiny. They must be like halfling-sized.
You've got to think so. Yeah.
Good kobolds are hard to find.
Good center of gravity.
Really buff, though.
They are, yes.
Well, you know.
My God.
You've got nothing else to do except wait for the murder hobos to arrive. You better prep.
You bench press.
It's like every day is gym day in a kobold cave.
Oh my God, that'd be a really funny way of doing a dungeon. Like, why are all these guys so tough? Well, they've been waiting for you for years.
Just every room is like a different gym type thing.
Yeah. The main room is just a room full of mirrors.
Oh, I'd be up for that. So's he.
There's loud pumping drum music coming from somewhere.
Yeah.
Fear the Peloton.
Oh man, working out to war drums would be good.
Oh, yeah.
Shay, need to remember that.
That's really good. The Aztec War banner upgrade.
Stick them on the back. Away you go.
It's a really simple thing, but
Alfonso, the traitor, will be picking those up.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
They are absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. Before we go, we should probably have a look at the Greeks. I want to look at the Greeks because the Greek hoplite kit is just fantastic. At the top.
The Greeks.
Oh,
Where are we?
At the top. Near the top.
There they are. Not the damned.
There's also a tankette as well. Which
there's a little Italian tankette, which is perfect because they've got a little Italian kit as well.
Yeah. But a full-on Greek hoplite kit that you've got to think is probably going to end up getting put into sprues at some point in the future. But
definitely, because they've already got the Persians. They just need to do the Greeks, so then you can go full Peloponnesian War.
Yeah. But just a stunning little set of stuff in that classic hoplite attire. Those big round shields.
With this flash Macedonian style helmet. Not a home to you, matey.
Yeah.
That's where we're at. Corinth helms or little felt caps.
That's the way to go.
Are fine.
Oh, yeah. I do love that classic Greek helm with the winged sides to it and the full-on plume and everything. It's so cool. Yeah.
It's really nice. It's also, am I correct in thinking there are multiple body types, or is it just?
I think it's
just
three sets of five. Yeah.
3 sets of 5, so the same body type. It's just slightly pivoted.
So I would assume that would turn into a set of 30, maybe, if it came into a plastic kit later on down the line.
Yeah, I wouldn't say no. I'd say yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
They
are
cracking.
Selling bits and pieces. They also have, so obviously they've arrived on my manufacturing. They're doing all this stuff here that you can see and dive into and have fun with. So you've got loads of different options 3D printing wise if you just want to go and buy the kits individually. But as is the case with a lot of my manufacturing stores, they've also got the tribes thing set up as well. So they've got different packages that are coming out every month at the same time. So if you want to kind of help them on a more regular basis with a sort of a subscription, essentially, you can do
the
that.
Engine block.
They've even done the engine. That's insane.
Nice if you want to use it for like a diorama piece as well.
Yeah.
That's quite nice. That is competing with the size of a TKS too as well. I can't remember what the name of that thing is. It's not a Simovet, is it? No, Simovets are bigger.
I wouldn't know the Italians at all. Wouldn't know them from Adam.
I don't think many people know the Italian tanks because, they're crap.
It's the Mario.
It's the pizza.
Did you say, was that Mario?
It's the Mario. It's the Mario tank.
It's the Mario tank.
The Mario twins.
Yeah. Mario and Luigi taking a tank out for the
Mario.
drive.
I think you'll find is his real name.
Yeah. Now we've alienated all of our Italian audience.
Oh, that's all right. I think we did that a long time ago. I'm staying out of Italy and not ordering any pizza. It's a interesting. So 19 kits or things, I suppose.
And if you there's another link in the there's another link in the doc that should take you to the option. So
yeah, it took us to more or less a thing that said this isn't up yet, and then I went, no, it is now, and redirects you back to this page.
Oh,
but
they have got a launch package together, as you can see here. So this is if you subscribe to them for essentially that month kind of thing. These are the kind of things that you'll be able to get access to and all that kind of stuff.
It is just this page.
Well,
it's all 19 of these.
Yes. So they are working on a whole bunch of things. They are, as I say, and as you say, Jerry, they are going through the process of trying to get things up and running and all that kind of stuff. But as a starting offering for a 3D printing collection, I think it's pretty damn good.
It's diverse. I'll give it that. There's, it's not like they've gone fantasy and ancient historical or, sci-fi or just went with whatever happened to be the initial sort of run. They've put a bit of everything in there. So if you've come across Wargames Atlantic from any, whether it's been ancients, World War II, sci-fi or fantasy, there's something kicking around in there that you could possibly lay your hands on and make use of, which is good. And they're all supplementing something that's already out there. So like the little Italian tankette, if you've already got the plastic box of Italian troops, then, you can have that. And like you say, you could put up against the TKS. Their battle will be legendary and very, very small.
The other thing that I think is really nice is that, I don't think the vast majority of wargamers, but I think a great amount of wargamers now have access to a 3D printer or are buying them because they're coming down in price and they're becoming a lot easier to use and all that kind of stuff. And essentially, if you're a big fan of the Wargames Atlantic things and you want to get those additional upgrade kits, they're very small individual files and individual pieces and that kind of thing. So they're not going to be taking up a huge amount of resin and that kind of stuff as you print them and that kind of stuff. So I could see a lot of people getting on board with this and having fun with it. And as John said, I'm surprised I'm surprised a lot more companies haven't done something similar to this. So
it'll come.
Yeah,
it's only a matter of time.
Yep.
Yes. The digital revolution.
Yeah. Hopefully, I will be speaking to Hudson in a sit-down interview type thing about Wargames Atlantic and what they're up to, because he's fascinated me now. Well, he's fascinated me for a while, but
he feeds your habit.
He's managed to dodge me up until now. I've been speaking to him recently, and we're going to try and get something sorted out. So whether it's himself or he offers up somebody else, because they've a lot of stuff, a lot of plates spinning. So even things like the Imperial Chinese that they started talking about a while ago. So that's all currently bubbling away in the background as well. So nice to see them branching out and using the stuff they already have and the sculptors they have to either get a step ahead or add a few more bits and pieces to their existing range. Clinker, sham, as I believe they say. Right, a couple of Kickstarters to round out the show. And more alien trees. Very much the flavour of the week. Yeah,
you know what, Jerry? I'm going to let you talk about this one because you love yourself a little bit of Mantic. So go for it.
What makes you think I've been near this?
I have the sneaking suspicion. Oh, look.
Obviously, Mantic have done train crates before in the past, focusing almost exclusively on fantasy and stuff that could be used in sort of historic up to World War II, and a few bits of modern-y type things. But one of the things that sort of occurred to Ronnie of late was we have an awful lot of really good ways of getting your hands on buildings and stuff, but everybody is still using deciduous and fir trees from Earth. So your Alien World is Alien World by way of Doctor Who. You know, it's filmed somewhere in Kew Gardens. So with that in mind, the idea is to come up with a range of scatter terrain and sort of vegetation that can be used to play your sci-fi games and actually make your sci-fi tree look like it's sci-fi. As you can see there, each of the trees is built up of components that can be interchanged and swapped. So there's like a bottom, a middle, and a top, and then additional bases. So you can drop your middles into your bases to make shorter trees as well. They're all fully compatible with each other. And I believe there was a stretch goal last night where they've added, there'll be magnetization holes in them. So you'll be able to just magnetize them without having to start drilling stuff out right off the bat. So that the tree side is sort of where it's mainly at. There's also going to be a range of runic type scatter, like these strange alien artifacts and stuff, obelisks and Sith holocron type affairs. So these are going to be made out of the same softish plastic that previous Terrain Crate, if you've had any of it, is made out of, which is good because you can drop a breeze block on it and that stuff will take it without having to worry about chips, breaks, or snapping. Well, I mean, if you haven't come across the Terrain Crate, like the Wizard's Study, the bookcases and stuff like that, if I need to get something off a very, very high shelf, I can just stand on those. They take the weight beautifully. But I also like the fact that because the way I game, it seems to be the way a lot of people do, whenever you're putting things down, you want to have footprints for certain games. So these things come in a big cardboardy box of cratey goodness with all your various vegetary requirements, but then also little neoprene bases. So you've got irregular bases and
area terrain things,
square bases for your area terrain. And they're also matched to these migraine inspiring alien world maps. I think is the best way to put that. Well, but they are. I mean, they're very much, you're not in Kansas colourful anymore.
Yes.
What was it Colonel O'Neill said, you know, whenever you think you're not in Kansas anymore, you are, as they looked out over some wheat fields that were probably in Kansas. But, you know, in this case, you do get a very comprehensive way of doing flora and fauna. It's a relatively small campaign in the grand scheme of things, but they have these battlefields, which a lot of people were going, 3x3s, Ronnie, 3x3s, come on, dead zone. Vanguard, stuff like that. So they added the 3x3 option last night, I think, just to shut people up in the comments. So you've got
someone frantically going around cutting bits off 4x4 maps.
that type of thing. So you've got these, the battlefield, the other world are very sci-fi. There's the fantastic fantasy, which is just a scrubland green and brown. So if you're going to be playing Kings of War or fantasy games, you can play it without being so sci-fi based or eye-wateringly melty, that it's not going to stand out. But then you also get the neoprene area terrain.
I think these are great.
That match to this, so you'll just be able to see. You know, you can just put your trees on it, lift the trees off to put the figures in wherever they need to be, and then you don't have to worry about moving a whole lot of stuff about. I'm a big fan of flat things. Difficult terrain and the like is also handy. Although I've got a load of latex stuff from Timecast, so I probably won't. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, time will tell. There's like a week before this ends, so my results may vary. But yeah, it's just a really nice way of getting either big box of trees or some sort of alien ruins and scatter that's been sort of overgrown template onto the tabletop and just dressing it up a bit more. They have added in these. So from previous Terrain Crates, so the Fantasy Abandoned Town set, which I think was in the update last night. Boom.
Some of the more Dead Zone-y stuff as well, which were quite nice.
Yeah, no, it's not in that one. Nah, well, it'll be in somewhere.
The thing that I really liked about, especially, well, I quite like the trees. I think they're a really good idea. Because it's one of the things that I think a lot of people fall down on when it comes to sci-fi tabletops, is it just ends up most of the time just looking like a ruined urban environment.
Yes.
And you don't tend to add, flora and that kind of stuff in there.
Ruined Gothic City number 27.
Exactly, yes. But the other thing that I really liked is that I think that scatter crate is going to become the standard one that people will pick up for all of their sci-fi games.
Yeah.
That is, in my mind, the Gothic Ruins set of now coming to the tabletop. Because I think that deals with high sci-fi, low sci-fi, Gothic, everything in between, depending on how you paint it, obviously. And you get so much in that set that I think a lot of people are just going to snap that up and they're going to use it for their kill team and all sorts of different things. I think it's going to be really good.
This is the kind of stuff that really plays into like clubs.
Yes.
You know, grouping together to buy maybe even multiples of all this stuff.
Yeah.
I know that's hint hint. That's what we need. Hint hint.
It's been interesting seeing them do it. You can see the swimming and swapping bits. Because I've seen some people immediately going, "It's exactly what I need," and other people going, well, "Why do I need this?"
You're a historical gamer, aren't you?
It's not, it's just it shows the level of gamers, because I used to see this all the time where people will forever buy more miniatures and will avoid buying things like rule books, because why would I buy a book when I buy more toys? Doesn't matter, I don't know how to play them, or stuff for your actual battlefield. And once you've got a good selection, they'll work for a multitude of games. Obviously, all the Mantic sci-fi stuff. Firefight, Warpath, Dead Zone, Bosch. Yeah. We have also been hassling to see if we can get 3x3 grids on the mat as well. So Dead Zone's good to go on them. But your Stargrave, your 5 Parsecs, Rogue Stars, all of those, because we've played some great games of Stargrave, and the boards we've set up have looked quite nice, but they've all been either very heavily industrialized or very rocky. There hasn't been a bit of vegetation on anything anywhere, because we don't have anything that looks even remotely sci-fi, and making a load of them, unless you're going to start making polystyrene balls and cocktail sticks, old school.
I'm going to the aquarium.
Aquariums are quite nice, but then once you do a load of aquarium stuff, it looks like you've just got Burmese jungle. You don't really have the other bits and pieces. So it's been slowly building up. They've added extra little toppers and bits and pieces to it, but it's a very self-contained Kickstarter as a whole. So they're not planning on doing 5 or 6 or 7 different types of, you're not getting Ice World, Lava World, blah, blah, blah. It is, here's the tree box, here's the scatter box, and if you want mats, mats are available, and they're available from 3x3 now up to 6x4, including that weird GW got like a weird sized one that's like not quite 6x4. It's like 63 inches by 29.5 inches. They've added that one in as well.
The thing that made all the mat designers go, "Oh, for God's sake!"
Just get a 6x4 because it can be used in more games, and then just start further in. Use the back bit to put all your miniatures. As we've had a look at that, and I've been looking through it and that kind of thing, Mantic stuff is usually really reasonably priced as well. And as long as you're willing to either break out the airbrush, Shay, or you're just want to work with dry brushes and spray cans and that kind of thing, you could get all of that vegetation and all of those ruins done really quickly. And I bet from just those 2 boxes, you've probably got enough to do a very nice 6x4 table. Easily. I think that was kind of the idea behind it, was that it would do everything you need to in one file swoop.
And then just put incidental pieces here and there, maybe from their extended range or from somewhere else, and suddenly you've got really nice looking tables. Yeah,
because you can just tack in the previous train crates. There's a lot of those, so using the sort of the modular Dead Zone stuff.
Oh god,
and they've added in just sort of 2, one for fantasy and one for sci-fi to that you can buy at third off, actually. So substantially cheaper than retail if you don't already have some sci-fi stuff kicking around that you want to use. Yeah, it's good. I'm looking forward to getting mine. If I was backing it, I'm not saying I'm backing it. If I was, I'd be looking forward to getting it. Who knows?
We know.
Anyway, 10 days left on it, and 'tis funded already.
Yes.
And shall we do this one as well? I have no idea what this one is.
I'll do this one. It's okay.
Oh, that's very
So this is from Steamforged Games. It was the most followed Kickstarter apparently before it began, and it even managed to break Kickstarter's systems apparently when it was running. So that tells you something about it. So this is their campaign, the Kickstarter campaign for Elden Ring, the board game. So if you're a fan of the From Software video games that are hard as nails but bloody beautiful and lovely, and well worth having a go at if you've not had a go before. There's plenty of really good, easy, free demos online nowadays, most of the time, with all the different passes and that kind of thing. But anyway, I digress. This is a board game version of their latest epic, which is Elden Ring, the board game. This is a 1 to 4 player game where you'll take on the role of the Tarnished, who is your kind of hero characters from the world. And you'll be diving into a, frankly, insanely huge board gaming experience that I'm fairly confident I could say is on the level of something like a Frosthaven or what's it called? Oath Sworn into the Deepwood, all those kind of games. It's a massive, huge project for you to dive into and have fun with. Essentially, it'll take over your board gaming life for the foreseeable future, I would imagine. Gameplay is set over sort of 2 different spheres almost, where you have, as you've seen in the video here, actually, the exploration of the map. Now, they've not taken the whole of the Elden Ring map straight away. They've kind of started out with just a portion of it called Limgrave, which is where you start in the video game. And they've played around with that and the bosses there. And you will go around the map and you will uncover quests and you will meet NPCs and you will find treasures and lost things. Yes, that is an actual thing from the game.
I'm just saying it looks like one of those pieces of medieval art where they've asked the cleaner of the chapel to restore it.
Yes.
It looks like that Chaos guy from earlier.
It does actually, yeah. But then when you come to encounter enemies, you individually move over to the quest book, which is that sort of ring-bound book that we saw, the spiral-bound book there, and you will fight against the enemies. Now, the interesting thing about that is that when you go into combat, more often than not, you're probably going to be spread out across the map from all the other players. And so unless you're actually diving into a boss encounter where everyone gets drawn into the same fight, you actually continue to take your turns on that quest book map while everyone else continues to move around and do all the things. So the turn sequence still goes around and you still go through your initiatives and stuff, but you still play out your actions in combat. And then it doesn't take up any more time from anyone else or, dissuade from what's happening elsewhere and that kind of thing, which I think is a really nice idea. The game itself mechanically is driven by it's all card-based mechanics. So there's no dice rolling luck involved. Everything's based around a couple of different decks that characters have. So you have like an attack deck and an effects deck and a defense deck and that kind of thing. And you'll be flipping cards in order to do certain abilities and trigger certain actions. And then the effects cards will bolt onto that using those symbology that you see there. And that will allow you to do more deadly attacks and that kind of stuff as well. They have obviously brought in a lot of the stuff from the From Software games. So you've got stamina that you're going to need to manage, which is kind of based on the amount of cards that you can play each turn and that kind of stuff. And positioning is really important as well. So on those quest book maps, you'll see that they're broken up into sections. And depending on where you're standing within the sections of that combat map, allow you to do certain things. So if you're right at the front of that map, then you'll be able to do bigger attacks and heavier attacks. If you're in the middle, then you get kind of like a halfway house between the two. It's not quite as good as either side. And at the back, you can obviously get more defenses and you can rest and you can regain your stamina and all that kind of stuff as well. I think is really nice. They've also said that the actual enemies themselves are really intelligent and they've got a really nice sort of like inbuilt AI mechanic almost to them as well and how they work. So they from what they've said anyway in previews of some of the rules, mechanics and things that we've seen in videos, there is the sense of learning how enemies fight. So it's just like the video game in that respect where you're like, so I know that they have these kind of attack cards in there that might come out again soon and I'll be able to take that into account and that kind of thing. Really nice.
Similar but different from Dark Souls, because they did Dark Souls, didn't they?
Yeah, so they've done Dark Souls, yeah.
Which Dark Souls, the boss monstery type things was about attacking the right position on the card, and every turn its deck flipped, it would do a new attack in a new direction, but also the weak spot would change. so you were constantly having to move around. So similar here, where
you'll be able to like drag the boss, drag the characters into different positions and outflank them. Like that's a big thing in this. If getting behind it, well, not getting behind, but getting behind them in a sort of more figurative sense rather than literal, based on the maps, that kind of thing, and stuff like that. The other thing they've done with this is they've kind of split it up.
Mm-hmm.
So they realized, and I mean, it's still pretty massive, but they realized that it would be fairly impossible. Well, not impossible because they've done it, but it would be fairly weird to try and do like all of the world at once, as I said. So they've tried to cut it down to just Limgrave, but they've got different pledge options. So you can come in at the entry level, which just gives you the content for the Weeping Peninsula element of Limgrave. So that gives you an end boss for you to fight, alongside of all of the enemies that are then tied to them thematically. So that's all the Leonine, Misbegotten, and that kind of stuff that you would have seen in Castle Morn is the kind of end point for that. And that works as a self-contained game, but it's also an expansion. That's more like an expandalone, I guess you'd say, for the core game. So the core game is also based around the Realm of the Grafted King, which is your basic sort of mid-level pledge. And that gives you everything up until Stormvale Castle. If anyone knows the video game, that's kind of like the first big, massive boss that you're going to be fighting about sort of a couple of hours into the game, depending on how good you are. It took me a lot longer than that, but there we go. But then they've also built in a whole bunch of additional stuff. They've also built in a whole bunch of other stuff that again ties into all of the different smaller elements of Limgrave that you can then take and bolt onto things. So, for example, you can get additional expansions for the rest of Stormvale Castle, Dragon Angheel as well. So that the dragon attack that you get in the swamps in the game is included as a separate sort of expansion module. There's also the Erd Tree avatar, so there's another big creature that you can fight as well. And they've kind of gone down the route of, as I say, giving you essentially a smorgasbord of options for you to choose from when it comes to this game. Like I was a little bit sort of, this seems a bit big from what they'd put together for this in the previews and things. But from how they've kind of described it and how they've talked about the mechanics and things like that, I can fully see why this has been as funded as it has. Yeah. Because it genuinely seems like they've done a solid job on this, both mechanically and aesthetically, and sort of set it up as well. So, yeah, it seems pretty insane.
Chunky.
Yes.
It's it's definitely one if you're a big fan of the games.
It's the Kickstarter is so big, by the way, that I think there's a video explaining how to use the Kickstarter. How
to navigate the Kickstarter.
Yes.
That's always a good sign.
The thing I'm really looking forward to seeing is the quality of everything when it finally comes out, because it looks fantastic from what we've seen here, but I really hope that they manage to kind of nail that quality when it comes to the miniature design, because obviously we're seeing renders and stuff here, and we have seen a couple of kind of previews of early stuff, but I really want to see the kind of final stuff on these, because the design of the characters in Elden Ring is phenomenal, and so it would be really nice to be able to get a proper good look at them and how they look on the tabletop. So,
I mean, I've seen the Dark Souls stuff, which was probably one of the, well, no, because obviously they were doing Guild Ball before that anyway.
The Guild Ball,
yeah. But there's definitely a noticeable change between Dark Souls and the Epic Encounter boxes.
Yeah,
that I've been looking
I'm
at.
hoping it's more in vein with that kind of.
Yeah, and I think the Epic Encounter quality is excellent. It's right up there. Yeah. It's an interesting one for sort of a fantasy world exploring. I know nothing about Elden Ring. I don't think I would jump on the massive pledge, but it would be something where you're looking up, because I like the idea of your party can split and it's not detrimental potentially, depending on what you stumble into. But at the same time, you're not going, well, you're doing this now, and that therefore we all have to watch you fail at fighting some wolves for a while, and it's delaying us playing our game. You can still go.
I think it's a really nice little thing.
I wonder if it's possible then, could you, if you were close enough, then wander in to help?
Yeah, if you're nearby, I think you can aid, and you can also in Elden Ring you can call on allies to help you. So I think they've built those mechanics into the game so that if you are nearby, you can be like, "I'll just come and help you fight these creatures," rather than just being all drawn into just the one fight at the end against the boss or anything like that. Which I think is really cool. I as you say, I think while I probably wouldn't go for the core pledge, I'd be very tempted to either go for the entry pledge or maybe grab the Weeping Peninsula set when it comes out, because if that kind of gives you a honed, tight, full game experience, but in a smaller box, focus on a particular thing, I think that could be really good. And then you could just modular fashion, just buy the additional things as they come out and see what you think of them. I'll also say their plans aren't ending at dealing with Limgrave and the Realm of the Grafted King. They have talked about doing pretty much all of the rest of Elden Ring.
I want to see the monstrosities that Caelid has.
Oh my god!
Because Caelid is a very messed up area.
I'm surprised that Caelid is such a terrifying area. I'd imagine if the box just comes with a note and it's saying "Don't bother," just put it back.
Just stub the box and just they've reprinted the "You died" from Dark.
Yes, it just says "You died" on the top, and that's it. Yeah.
to put Caelid into perspective, Jerry, a video game reviewer was talking about it, and he just said it's amazing that you were able to make a land that's full of German nightmares. It's like German bedtime stories.
Grim fairy tales come to life.
It is utterly horrific, though. Yeah.
Well, there you have it. 7 days left on Elden Ring, the board game. If you fancy giving that a swizz, then now's your chance to back it, or you can hang on and see how it hits retail. Presumably, I'm going to say next year, late on.
Well, yes.
Give them some breathing space. Yeah. Right. I think that wraps us up for another show. We should be back on Sunday for our XLBS with the Cult of Games over on tabletop.com. If you're not already a cultist, you can join us for free for 30 days. Join us.
Or as Warren would say, get a subscription.
Get a subscription.
Help us.
we shall return next Friday. Don't forget, if you want to be with a chance to win the Battle of Osgiliath, you need to comment below. And if you want to see if you're a previous winner, then go over to OnTableTop.com and check the prize claims center and see if you've picked up something like the Italian Bersaglieri. You could use that Italian tankette from the 3D printing for it.
I think everyone should just comment, Ben should have the Battle of Osgiliath set.
Is that right? Okay.
And that's how we'll do this.
If we get 100 guys. Ben should get the Battle of Osgiliath set comments, then it'll go to one of those people who have commented and still not you. Suck it up. Right.
They're all called Ben.
Until next week, folks. Have a great week of gaming. Bye-bye.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.